Okay. So what we're going to talk about today is, as I mentioned in the intro, is some of the unique data challenges that reinsurance companies have with data, and what tools and capabilities the TimeXtender toolset brings to help tackle those challenges. So when I look at this, there's three things that I think are important to consider in this discussion. The first is that reinsurance is a regulated finance industry. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is an important thing and why that impacts this discussion. The second is that the data set for reinsurance is kind of interesting. The transaction volumes are low, but there is a massive amount of data that is related to each of the contracts that a reinsurance company undertakes and writes and deals with, that has a lot of nuances and complexities that make it challenging to manage. And the third thing is that a reinsurance company has a fiscal responsibility to reduce risk in their operations. When they're, the nature and the size of the transactions that they deal with are such that they've got to be really careful about how they leverage technology that is not going to expose them in a way where they're kind of, they're inadvertently adding risk to their operations. They've got a responsibility to make sure they can be in a position to pay the claims for the contracts that they're signing. They need to make sure that they're not exposing themselves unduly in that process. I'd like to talk a little bit about the last two to start off with, to set the stage, and then kind of discuss the whole regulatory aspect, and then we can start looking at how TimeXtender can help in that process. So when you think about a reinsurance company, what they're doing is they're writing contracts. They're essentially insuring, and most people I'm here sure on the call probably know this, insuring another insurance company. But what's interesting about it is they've got a number of groups that have to deal with quite deep and complex data, whether it's the actuarial team that'll looking at underlying risk details, missing information, putting that detail through different modeling programs quite extensively at times to come up with the right kind of pricing strategy, the right reserving strategy, understanding if this is even a risk that the reinsurance company wants to undertake from from an exposure perspective. You also have the underwriting and the legal team. They're going to be accepting an awful lot of submission information and legal documents that are outlining what the risk is that the company is going to be undertaking, that needs to go through analysis. Do we want to cover this particular type of peril or not? And then you've also got, you've got your claims team and your finance team that'll be dealing with a lot of underlying data through what are called bordereaux, with the claim bordereaux passing through the different claims information, and the underlying risk that they need to look at and analyze and say, is this actually an exposure that we're supposed to cover? And again, to the premium bordereau that comes up and uploads to see if that's something that actually should be being received or not. And then the finance team dealing with, the payments in and out to cover all those various kind of claims and premiums receipts. And on top of all that, you then got the actual reinsurance, the bound contract system that the reinsurance company is going to be using to record all this information, recording their specific exposure in that contract, recording the financial transactions that they undertake with that, recording the claim details, doing analysis on their fiscal position. Are the actual claims coming through? How's that matching their estimate profiles? What's the earnings looking like? All of that information. So all very detailed information that are very specific to different teams. They all also need to be aggregated up so you can have that overview picture from the executive team about where the book is as a whole, or what are exposures in different areas. So the thing that's interesting about all this is there's a lot of detailed information in different groups within the organization that need to do some detailed analysis with that data. And then all of those data sets are going to produce some sort of summary level information, which is imperative for the full organization to be able to see and understand and leverage at a high level. And so that's where the complexity lies. Now, when you look at things from a regulatory perspective, the reinsurance company is heavily regulated. You've got the BMA in Bermuda, you've got the SEMA in Cayman, where they're having to submit financial data every year, where they're going through and, they're showing, what their premium written, what their exposure is, what their reserving is, what their capitalization model looks like. Are they still within regulatory guidelines? So they need to be able to take all that information that they've been collecting and using to build this out and be able to aggregate that up for reporting purposes. And it also has to be something that's going to pass audit. They're under audits all the time. So any time that they're actually submitting this kind of information, it needs to be auditable so they can hand on heart say, yes, this is actually our financial position. And they're doing that to the BMA, they're doing that to the shareholders, and they're doing that to SEMA. So there's a massive amount of oversight that they have to be able to adhere to and be able to demonstrate that as they're making use of this data, that that the assumptions and the decisions that they're making on that data has gone through a governed process that allows them to be able to be able to absolutely assert that the information that they've used is correct and the conclusions that they've drawn from those are correct. And then the final thing from a fiscal responsibility is that they've got to constantly be thinking about how do we operationally make sure we're not introducing risk into this space. I mean, they're managing risk all the time with their underlying clients, but they need to also make sure that they're not introducing risk themselves. And so what this can do is create a kind of environment where a reinsurance company could be looking at things and saying, okay, there's all the conversations going on right now about AI. There must be ways that we can leverage AI to improve these processes, to gain efficiencies, to gain insights that are difficult for us to get to now, to automate some of our processes. But because of the risks involved, that can be a difficult decision to make as to how do we actually move forward in a way that we're not going to expose ourselves to either catastrophic mistakes because we enable an AI agent to go off and do some processes and it starts writing checks, or give some hallucination and some insight that looks like it might be valid, but in fact actually is complete nonsense, and you make business decisions on that. So what we've been doing is we've been leveraging TimeXtender with our clients to help solve these problems, and it ticks all the boxes from that perspective. And one of the reasons we're actually holding this webinar today is that it has some new capabilities that have just come out recently that really make it pertinent to the AI discussion. TimeXtender now has capabilities to produce governed way of enabling AI, embedded AI within your organization using what we like to call a defensible data set. So I'm going to hand it over now a little bit to Michael via Juan, so that he can go over from a TimeXtender perspective, what is so amazing about this tool set that we find great in solving these problems.
Thank you, Paul. You went over time, but that's fine. I think it was totally worth it anyway. So,
okay.
Micah, take it away, please.
All right, appreciate it. Let me share my screen real quick. Let me know when you see screen.
Yeah, it's all good.
So as Paul said, things are moving very quickly. Things are changing fast, and every business is looking at how they can implement AI. And for highly regulated industries like this, the question is, how do we do this in a secure way? Like Paul mentioned, how do we make sure that this is governed, and how can we make sure that we meet the regulatory and compliance standards and all of those concerns, those risks that come with new technology? We need a way to mitigate for that while also capitalizing on the upside that this new technology promises. So first, I would love to cover just a few of those benefits that having AI ready data can confer to your business, even in highly regulated industries. So for example, if you have truly AI ready data and you can connect that clean, governed, secure, reliable data to AI, some of the use cases that we're seeing right off the bat is conversational querying of that data. So being able to ask questions of your data in plain English, not just, basic questions too. You can actually get pretty advanced. You can ask, to give you insights into your data that you may miss, to also pull out trends and things like that. So conversational, querying of your data is huge, right? That's a huge data data analysis use case that you can use this for. But in addition to that, you can also automatically generate visualizations like graphs and dashboards. You can automatically produce trusted reports, and you can even set them on a schedule. So if you want, certain reports done weekly and sent to stakeholders, you can set that up. You can get full data lineage on demand. Your senior people can stop doing a lot of the manual work of compiling these dashboards and these reports, and they can get that time back to start doing higher impact tasks. And then you're also able, if the data is truly governed and AI ready, you defend these outputs to the business. So if there's questions, there's concerns about the reliability of the data, you can easily answer those questions. So with all of those benefits in mind, I'd like to just cover some of the problems that we're going to have to overcome if we want to gain those benefits. So if there's all this potential, why does Gartner predict that over 40% of these agentic AI projects will be canceled? by 2027. So it's not because the AI isn't capable. I think we've all seen enough potential out of AI. It's impressive and it's getting better by the day, especially for data analysis. So it's not that the AI is necessarily bad. It's because the data underneath can't support the outputs in a reliable way. So the models work, everybody loves the capabilities, but those capabilities don't really matter if you can't trust the outputs. Automatically generating these shiny dashboards and visuals and reports is impressive, but ultimately it's useless if the numbers aren't right. So what breaks is trust, and trust breaks at the data layer. So we have to solve this problem before we can reap all of these benefits. So this is exactly why these projects are being canceled right here. This is what the breakdown in trust looks like. So you ask 3 different systems the same question, and you get 3 different numbers. None of them are necessarily wrong. They're all calculated using different business rules, time window, filters, etc. So this is what we call AI doesn't hallucinate the number necessarily. It uses the data it was given. The problem is that nobody made the meaning of that data consistent across those systems. So in reinsurance, where you've got treaty admin, actuarial models, finance all running independently, this is the default state, and it's a big problem. So if AI is connected to raw databases, it's going to struggle to give you consistent, reliable answers. The translation layer just isn't there. So here's how you start solving that context gap. When AI connects to raw databases, it makes those assumptions and it starts giving you those unreliable results. So the fix is a governed semantic model. So you're trying to give meaning to this data. You're putting together that translation layer over the top of this data to tell AI what it actually means. So these are valid business definitions, relationships, metrics, all of those things that you can build once and then enforce everywhere, no matter what AI tool or system that you're going to use. And when AI queries through that context and that meaning, then instead of through raw database tables, every answer is now grounded in those approved definitions and that logic. So it's not inferred, it's not guessed. You get approved, reliable answers with minimal hallucinations. We say near zero. We can't claim 100%, but once you have this layer in place, it drastically minimizes the number of errors that you get out of the outputs from these AI tools. So if you look at the sort of the 5 layers of AI readiness, this maturity curve, you can see that even if you solve that context gap, that missing translation layer, that's step 4 of this. And there's still, some companies are at step 1 or 2 or 3, and all of these are important, right? So even though the context gap is the main problem to solve, we still have to go back and make sure that every level of this is accounted for. So the first level is just consolidating all of that data. So it's spread out across all of these different systems. We have to get it all into a single location, whether that's a data warehouse, a lake house, something like that. It's necessary, but not sufficient. So even if you get all that data in one location, it doesn't guarantee that the data is reliable or complete. So level 2 is when you start cleansing and transforming that data. You're standardizing formats, removing duplicates, applying transformations. You are making this data clean and reliable for whatever use case you're going to use later down the line. Level 3 is govern and secure. This is where trust really begins. So you want to be able to monitor and enforce data quality continuously. You want to implement role-based access controls. You don't want just anyone being able to access all of your data in your data warehouse, for example. So you want to adopt that governance model and also a robust security model. You want to make sure that of course, that data is locked down and that outside actors can't access it. And for regulated industries, this is all non-negotiable, of course. Level 4 is that contextualized data. So this is where that context gap closes. You're collecting and activating metadata at every stage of this process. So the metadata gives your data meaning that AI can understand. That gives you full data lineage. It gives you governed definitions. It gives you automated documentation that stays current. And then the last level here is automation. So once you have implemented a orchestration solution, then your workflows will run automatically. All the dependencies, the timing, the execution order is all orchestrated for you. So that also allows you to generate production-ready code from the metadata, optimize for your whatever storage technology you're going to use. And because your business logic is portable and it's not tied to that underlying storage layer, you can now move to a different storage technology of your choice at a later point. So that means this is all future proof. There's no vendor lock-in, no rebuilding when your storage technology changes. To be honest, most organizations are probably still stuck at level 1 or level 2 and still figuring that out. The ones that get to level 5 are the ones that will actually get value from AI in production and not just in the pilot.
But
So
a
brings
quick
us
question for
to-
you, Mike,
Go ahead.
before you continue. So
Absolutely.
those 5 steps all sound fantastic. A nice, a nice kind of logical way of proceeding through them, but it can still seem like a challenge from an organization around, okay, how do I actually do this? How many technologies are we talking about here to get this done?
Absolutely.
How do I make decisions about even how to move forward with this stuff? I've seen analysis paralysis with organizations where like, how many experts do we need? How many tools do we need to get this done? Can you
Right.
talk a little bit about, just mention that a little bit, or talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a couple of different ways to accomplish this. As I'm sure you know, you can try to manually code all of this stuff together, and you can use point solutions, and you can try to put together a tool stack and make sure that all works together. And that's very, very challenging. It's also very expensive and very time consuming. So ideally, you would have a solution that wraps all of this up into one, and that is also, low code, easy to operate. As automated as possible. So that's sort of where TimeXtender comes in, right? So we specialize in making sure that, and honestly, we sort of start at level 4 and 5. So TimeXtender is, as I'll show in the next slide here, TimeXtender is built on a metadata framework, and so it's actively and continuously collecting metadata for every object within the solution, and it's activating that metadata to generate code, to orchestrate these processes, and to provide the foundation that you're going to need for all of this, right? So TimeXtender is a platform, and we have 4 modules. The data integration module is sort of the flagship. It's like the core engine behind this. So it connects to any data source. It ingests all of that data into a single centralized location. From there, you can start standardizing and transforming that data. And then the final step is to deliver that data. So you're going to build, a semantic layer and models for different departments or different domains within the business. And you're going to give them access to just a subset of data that's most relevant to them. And then all of this is, of course, orchestrated from end to end. We also have a data enrichment module. So a lot of the business context, a lot of data lives outside source system. So typically it's in scattered spreadsheets, right? So you need to be able to have a home for all of that scattered data. And so that's where our data enrichment product comes in. And then we have data quality, which continuously automates profiling. It detects anomalies. When a rule is violated, the issue gets routed to the right owner with full context on what failed. And you want to be able to stop any of those anomalies or errors before bad data reaches those production systems, whether that's an AI tool, a report, or a dashboard. So that's what data quality is all about. And then orchestration, of course, is about automating workflows, those dependencies, execution order across the entire data lifecycle. Quality gates are built into this so they can halt downstream processes when rules are violated, and those errors won't escalate or cascade down. And then the data infrastructure runs like an automated production system. So again, all of this is tied together with metadata. This active metadata drives how data is moved, how code is generated, how lineage is tracked, and how documentation stays current. And there's no need to rebuild or rewrite code if you want to move to different storage technologies. There's no vendor lock-in, and this is what makes your data truly AI ready. So again, we've used metadata to solve that context gap, but then you still need to account for the rest of the end-to-end data lifecycle, and that's what we do. And we specialize especially in highly regulated industries where things like security and governance and auditability and reliability are of utmost importance. That's sort of our bread and butter. So we spend a lot of time on the security part, a lot of time on governance, and all of that is built into the platform. It's not extra tools that you have to.
Yeah, I'll make a quick comment on that. Just as this has become our go-to tool for delivering solutions to our clients, and the thing that I think is invaluable in it. I mean, the capabilities are also amazing, but is a key piece to it that I find invaluable, in the fact that it gives you this unified tool that allows you to kind of deal with every different type of process you've got to go in these pipelines, whether it's connecting to your source systems, doing the transformations, loading it up into databases, designing your semantic models, publishing it out there, adding the security. But it does that in one tool. So, and it abstracts you from the technology layer. So you don't have to care necessarily which database platform you're working on. Am I going to put this on a SQL Server on premise? Am I going to put this in Snowflake? Am I going to put this in OneLake? You don't have to consider, you have to worry about that aspect and say, oh gosh, okay, I've got to learn how to write PySpark notebooks now to be able to do this. You can do it all within this layer, and then it takes care of the technology interface, which is amazing. So you can focus on the solution. You can focus on what is the business problem I'm trying to solve with the client, and you've got all the tools you need to do that. As you said, whether you're trying to figure out how do I make sure there's data quality, how do I integrate all the budget spreadsheets and all these other things. So I just wanted to make that comment. It's an amazing enabler and just cuts the time massively for building these solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that's really important to mention here too is that the TimeXtender is going to generate production ready code using metadata, but it's pushing that code down to the storage technology, right? So we don't actually access or control your data at all. It's pushed down to the storage technology layer. So a lot of the security risks are eliminated because of this, because we have what we call a zero access security model. So that's also really good for regulated industries, excuse me. And the last thing here I just want to mention, and then Shivam will actually demonstrate this, is you don't want to expose your secure data directly to AI tools, of course. So an MCP server is that secure connection point between the governed and contextualized data that you're getting from TimeXtender and the AI tools your team is already using or planning to adopt. So whether that's Claude or Copilot, custom agents, internal tools, it doesn't matter what you're using. The MCP server is that secure control point, right? So it's going to expose the governed subsets of your data to these AI tools in one single secure endpoint. That means that anyone in your organization can ask a business question in plain language and get an answer grounded in your context, right? Your approved definitions. The security story, again, we've already mentioned that. This is read-only access, so you don't have to worry about users, writing changes back to the databases through these tools. It's read-only access. There's enterprise authentication. Your data never leaves your environment, and the AI only sees what the semantic model exposes, and only to approved users. So this is what Shivam is about to demonstrate for you guys live.
So I'll just make a quick comment on that as well. So you can have multiple of those MCP models for different scenarios. So if you had a situation where, say, there's a particular set of data that we want to expose to a particular type of AI agent or AI users, you can pull that small piece together, put it there, secure it, and then you've got a nice governed way of saying that that's all that they can work with, and not have to worry about them, say, getting access to some underlying data that might have some sensitive information. You're going to govern it down to a specific use case, and so it gives you a lot of flexibility about how you can start integrating AI into your organization. So Shivam, as Micah said, is about to show us an example. And what we've done is we put together like a kind of a sample data set for reinsurance. It's Bespoke Reinsurance, which doesn't exist, obviously. And so Shivam's uploaded that into TimeXtender. He's going to show us that real quick, and then show us how that flows all the way through to an MCP server, and how you can use AI tools to query that data in a very natural language way.
All right. Floor is yours, Ivan.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul, for setting it up. So let me take you through quickly what Micah and Paul said. So this is one interface where you're doing everything. It's metadata driven. You're not worried about what the destination storage is, and everything is done in a low-code drag and drop approach to building highly regulated solutions. So the first step is ingestion. So you can ingest from multiple different sources. We're ingesting from 3 different sources. And MDW, which is prepared, this is where we're creating all the relationships, lookups, transformations, as Paul was alluding to. And from this, we are creating our semantic models. This is our deliver instance. And as you can see, I have few of my tables which are highlighted. The reason that they're highlighted is that you're adding context. And by context, I mean description. So for example, the description for currency code is that you're giving that if your exchange rate is not available, then use all USD values, because primarily and predominantly in this particular data set, it's all USD. So you're giving that context and helping the AI agent or the tool to have a bit more context of what fields to use and when to use it. So you can give that context at the table level. Also, you can give that at field level as well. You can define what this is. It's primarily a fact table and what it's dealing with, and what is the grain and where it can get like a counting period and everything. So all the details that are required for Claude in our case to get better and deeper understanding of the data as well.
I'll make a quick comment on that, Shiv. One thing we've used it as well as before is these semantic models. They can be pushed out to MCP models for the AI to access. They can also be pushed out as reporting data sets to your end users. So say you want to create a Power BI data set, and we've actually made use of those descriptions to enable the end users as well when they're putting that together to make sure that there is like an embedded documentation and business rule around how they should leverage the data set. So it suits dual purposes. It can help kind of give the insight to the AI agent or the AI tool to kind of understand how to make use of the data, but it can also give, I guess, insight to the human agent too. That needs to do the same thing for reporting purposes.
Absolutely. And the most amazing part or the beauty of it is that you can deploy it to multiple different endpoints at the same time. So I have quite a few. And you can deploy it to our MCP endpoint. And what MCP is, a model context protocol, was developed by Anthropic. And it basically acts as a USB port for your AI agent, your LLM, and your data. It helps any kind of AI tooling or agents to connect with your data in a very secure way. And how, from all of this words, now let's see how we get to querying the data. So first step is, as I'm Kevin sitting on a beach as a CFO near Hamilton, and this is, I want to give me like an overview as of today. So what Claude is doing is that it's connecting to our MCP. As you can see here, I have multiple MCP servers. So it's connected to my Reinsurance MCP. As Paul was alluding to, you can have one semantic model or multiple semantic models doing different kind of data set. Example is like an HR data set. You only want your people organization to see that. You can give them access to just the HR people data to a specific organization. So you can also create different semantic models pertaining to different organizations as well and give them access to as well. So now what Claude is doing is querying the MCP server, as you can see here, and it's defining like a baseline, and it's grabbing everything, and it's visualizing everything. So within seconds, and just by writing plain English or natural language, you can get a beautiful dashboard and how it got it. And as Micah was alluding to, here that it is near zero. We'll get to it how we got to the near zero number. So you can set it to have specific. Right now I asked a very broad question, so it gives me a whole different overview, but also you can specifically ask, just give me premium and losses by underwriting here, or what is for this quarter. So you can kind of question it. You can delve deeper into it. And it creates a very interactive dashboard as well. So while it's pulling up multiple different dashboards and charts in this case, also another interesting thing is you can also ask it some questions. Okay, based on loss ratio by line of business, what else can I do to help my organization prosper? What other kind of KPIs can I implement, or what strategic direction can I go in? As you can see here, it's written $2.79 billion US dollars in premium across 330 treaties. It gives you like profitability looks healthy on the surface. It gives you a whole holistic picture. Now the question comes in that when we say near zero hallucination, what do I mean by that?
Well, let's just have a quick look at that. So you asked one simple question. You said, "Give me an executive overview of my reinsurance industry and reinsurance organization," and this is the level of detail it's given you. It's come back. It's given you charts. It's graphs. It's given you assessments of different financial balances. That's pretty remarkable. I mean, that could be, as an executive, as somebody, on a management team, I could get quite excited about this. But, I could also get kind of nervous. It's like, okay, well, how do I know that this data, this information is actually legit? Okay, we're connected to the MCP model, but there's been an awful lot of inference that's been made from here. How can I defend these assertions made by the AI?
Absolutely. So how that happens is when we look here with its querying, it is querying your exact data and querying and creating those joins. And based on the relationship and the granularity and the context that you have defined in your semantic model. So it's taking that metadata of the context and governed model that you have defined in your semantic models, which is your deliver instance. And based on that, it is querying. So if everything is created in a specific way, it's not going to go and make up its own query based on whatever raw data that is available to it. So it's creating based on the cardinality, based on the relationships between different dimensions and facts, and ideally defining, and we have given it more context that, hey, only use US dollars when you're defining it. It might be Singapore dollars, but if there's exchange rate, convert everything and give me a holistic picture.
If you have a question of a particular balance, you've got an audit trail you can go back through and verify and look at it and say, okay, did it get it right? I mean, it doesn't, because sometimes the numbers come up, with a result that you don't necessarily intuitively think is going to be the number, but they're the number. So it's gonna be natural to question a particular thing. It's like, oh, I didn't think our exposure would be that high, or our renewal rate would be so low. But then you've got a way of going and auditing and checking to see, okay, did it, where did it get this from? Maybe you discover, oh, right, okay, it's including something else that I was not expecting to include. When I said overview, I meant just the U.S. office, not the Bermuda office as well, kind of thing.
Yes.
So that's pretty incredible.
Yes. And you get it in seconds and minutes instead of waiting weeks, and everything is at your fingertips, and you just have to ask in plain English, and you don't have to write, oh, what is the query to generate this chart, and not have to, ask ChatGPT to give me a query for that particular database. So it is pretty amazing. It's pretty quick, and is a substantial step in your AI agents, and you can build AI agents on top of this.
Yeah. From an end user standpoint, I can absolutely see a scenario. You might have a claims person that's going to say, okay, I need to find out, we've got some catastrophe that's taking place. What's my exposure to this? You could say, what's my exposure to this particular catastrophic event that's just come through? And it could give you those kind of answers just instantly. Say, well, it's going to be these contracts right here, or that event, that event's outside the kind of the contract period of all but these three, or something of that nature, or So there's quite a lot of capability in here to really, from my perspective, truly start giving that ad hoc capability, which we've been talking about for decades, for your end user to be able to actually get access to the data. It's really getting to the point where you can give people that freedom to access the data in the way that makes sense for what they need to do in the moment for their business process.
Absolutely.
We just received a question. I think it's timely before actually we go further. So Frank is asking, I assume these dashboards can be stored and reused. Is that a possibility?
The what can be stored and reused?
The dashboards.
Yes. So right now I'm using Claude. So these dashboards are already present in your chat history, or it could also be exported as an HTML, and that you can download it and keep it on your laptop, or you can have it.
Perfect. Thank you, Frank. Let us know if you need any further clarification.
Yeah. I mean, I've also seen scenarios where you use Copilot to build a Power BI report based on it, which you can then publish. kind of thing. So
Right.
yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can make use of that.
Frank is asking if Cloud can be deployed with Power BI.
I don't know the answer to that one.
Not directly, no, but you can use Copilot.
But what is nice as well is that, you know, you're not limited in the AI tool that you use. Shivan's made use of Claude because, you know, it's got some nice features and capabilities, and he's used a lot. But you could use multiple AI tools plugged into your MCP server to solve different problems. So maybe you've got your report writing team and you're using Power BI, so they're using a Copilot so they can automatically build out the Power BI reports. Maybe you've got you're using some agentic AI tool to build out agents that'll actually take this data and then do things with it, which is things you can do. Building in workflows, kind of read data, create some sort of activity. Like maybe it goes through and says, okay, give me go and alert particular people if we get, you know, a claims threshold over a certain amount. You know, all manner of things that you can do with it. So that it can be used with any AI tool. That's the beauty of the MCP server, is it gives you that controlled, to Shivan's point, USB port that you then plug in whatever AI tool makes sense for you, and it's all in a governed, controlled, and auditable space.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul. Shivam?
Yeah, no, I wanted to give you a little bit, just a quick overview, a little flavor of what can happen. So now I'll just throw it back to Paul.
Okay.
All right. So if anybody in the audience, other than Frank, obviously, and Frank included, any questions, now is the time. I'm just going to monitor the chat for a little while.
Yeah, I'll say that I find this time exciting. I mean, for me, it's the first time that I've actually seen a space where an organization can reliably and fairly easily start to look at how to leverage AI. Thinking back, I mean, it's ridiculous how quickly it's developed. And you start thinking about, when did ChatGPT first come on the scene? It was like 3 years ago, something crazy like that. You know, and those first instances, if you were wanted to do something, say, I want to leverage AI for more organization, then you had to pony up millions of dollars so that you could then get all the experts at all these different places to install all this different technology, to plug stuff in, and take you a year to get it in place. You know, now we're at this stage where, as an organization, you want to start leveraging AI, you've got a governed, control, fast and easy way to get this up and enable your people in hours being able to make use of AI tool sets within their organization, which is remarkable.
One of the questions I received, Paul, and everybody, whoever wants to take it in, is how does this system handle legacy systems with no APIs?
I think we can all say yes. Yeah. I mean, I'll speak as a partner. I'm sure Shivan and Micah have all the kind of all the kind of the marketing positioning on this, but as a partner, I have connected this to all manner of sources, like AS400s from stone tablet days, green screen stuff, up to the most current REST APIs and and GraphSQL kind of connections to NoSQL databases and MongoDB. It can connect to anything. I can say that with 100% confidence. Upload spreadsheets to FTP sites and download text files from there. Whatever it is that you've got to consume, TimeXtender can handle that interface, because they understand that there is a lot of different ways of handling this stuff and recording this data. So yeah, so it can pretty much handle anything.
Yeah, we've got a lot of pre-built connectors, but we do custom connectors as well. And I think the line that we like to use a lot is that we've never met a data source that we couldn't connect to. So in theory, we can connect to anything.
That's good. Then another question that came through is, you saw read-only access via the MCP server. What stops a write back at the architectural layer? Whoever wants to take it.
All right. Well, I can do it. So there are a few ways for authentication. One way is that we're giving only the read access, and that is like a SQL Server authentication. How you're creating a user and only that user has read access. So you're not giving like sysadmin and data creation access. There's only read access for the MCP and your AI agent or an LLM. Or another way to authenticate is also with an OAuth 2.0 as well. So there are quite a few ways.
Yeah, I'll chime in as well. I mean, one thing to consider is that when you saw a TimeXtender up that Shivam had there, and there's a number of different steps in that process, each one of those essentially lands the data in some sort of database layer that helps you in the transformation, whether it's like a data lake at the ingest stage, or your data warehouse in your prepare stage, or some sort of semantic model, either the MCP or analysis services cube or Power BI data set. Each one of those is going to have a security layer associated with it, and you define that within the TimeXtender. So you've got a holistic view of your security for the entire data platform. So the first step is you secure the whole thing end to end. So you don't end up in this scenario where you apply security at your MCP layer, but you forget to put it on your data warehouse layer, kind of thing. That's baked into the tool from the outset. Right from the start, you're putting security in to make sure that you're controlling who can access any part of it. And so all you do, like from the MCP's perspective, then you're creating a unique set of security that you expose to allow the AI agents to access that. There's not like a comprehensive security access you're going to give them. You're going to give them a very specific secure access to that one piece only. So they can only access that. And that works across your whole organization for all manner of different use case scenarios. So you've got programmers who want to access it for other purposes. You've got that secured and locked down and can control how they access any part of that, whether they want access to the data lake because they want to do some deep modeling and access to the raw data, or whether they want to be consuming some consolidated, top level, summarized data that they're going to use for some other purposes to interface to maybe the general ledger or things of that nature. All of those things have a security layer baked into them through TimeXtender that's all documented, modeled, and that is applied consistently.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Shivam. Are there any more questions that we can answer now? Otherwise, can give back some time to everybody. I'm pretty sure that's appreciated. Going once, going twice. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Paul, Shivam, and Micah for providing us with an overview. Yeah, I was going to pass the ball. Go on, Paul.
So we're doing an in-person event in June to kind of go over this in a bit more detail and allow people to have some deeper conversations with us. So I think we've got it penciled in for June 3rd at the moment. Juan, is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, that is correct.
It'll be an on-premise event here in Bermuda where we'll be doing a very similar demo. We'll be going over some of the aspects of it in a little bit more depth. I'm showing you some deeper capabilities of the AI tool through TimeXtender with a couple of different other ways of accessing it. And we'd hope everybody welcome to come join us and further discussion.
Lovely. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Have a beautiful day.
Yeah.
And
yes,
see you
thank
soon.
you all. Thank you, Micah. Thank you, Shivam. Thank you, Juan.
Thank you.
Thank you.